Good morning, lovely. I've got some really powerful channeled messages that are coming through right now and that have been coming through for the last day or two. And this is surrounding our sexuality, where I believe relationships are heading and why. So this is a personal share, and it's kind of blowing my mind in a way, even though a part of me has known my whole life, but recently I had a revelation that I'm pansexual. And what pansexual means, if you don't know the definition, is that you're drawn to the soul or the human, the person themselves, rather than their body and their gender. Pansexual is essentially just the idea that you are attracted to people for who they are, not how they look, and not what body parts they possess. That it has more to do with their soul blueprint, and who they came here to be than it does with anything on their physical exterior. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I feel like it's important to be honest. I'm the kind of person who just gets on here and shares real things from the heart in an authentic way, because I know that it's important and I lead by example, but also because I believe this is part of a greater conversation that we're going to be having as humans as we dive into this next phase of ascension. And I'm so sorry, let me turn this down. Basically, I've always sort of known parts of this, and also another element, which is non-monogamy, since I was young. And I believe that we're heading to an era where more and more of us are branching off from the norm of what has been considered the norm in relationships, at least for the last 100 or so years. This idea, this kind of antiquated idea of marriage between a man and a woman, and this singular family unit, and everything that comes along with that. I always knew that that wasn't for me. I've never been the kind of girl dreaming about a white wedding dress or even getting married at all. And I always had this idea that I couldn't really imagine myself with a person until the day that I died. And I kind of assumed at myriad of points that it was because I didn't see that growing up. And that makes sense. But I also know that a part of my soul at a young age understood some things that my human vessel didn't start understanding until right now. Last night, I was having some of these revelations. So bear with me here. This is twofold. This is a personal share, and this is also an important download I'm hearing for the entire collective, a channeled message about what the future looks like where it concerns our sexuality and our relationships. So our relationships have been antiquated, like I said, almost like a cookie cutter version of what we saw demonstrated as children. Through the media, through our own parentage, through other things. And so it's time for us now to understand that we are creating a new reality together, and that it's part of our job to expand and explore new ways of being human and being in relationships. And of course, it's already been happening for many years now. A lot of people are familiar now with the terms polyamorous and non-monogamous, and Dan Savage's coined phrase of monogamish, which I've always loved. But essentially, it's just a conversation that we're having, an idea that we're recreating the modern relationship through these new avenues of expression and realizations that we're having as humans, and this shift. Ooh, this is powerful coming through right now. This shift where a lot of people who used to identify as female are now identifying as non-binary, and then as well, and people who are transitioning from one gender to another because they feel called. And I believe a certain part of them is waking up right now. A soul part of them is waking up and kind of guiding them to this new era. And I believe that that's the same exact part of me. Sorry about that, darling. That is awakening to this news about myself. It's part of this new era that we're stepping into. And as I've mentioned, I've had inklings of these things since I was really young. Again. But I wasn't fully embracing them because there was still so much about myself that I didn't understand. And after the last 10 years of just diving deep into healing, into spiritual exploration, into, you know, my own version of vision quest and just dark night of the soul and shadow work and trauma healing and self-love exploration and celibacy and just reinventing myself in every possible way, I'm realizing that the reason why I resisted my non-monogamous inclinations in the past is because I was still learning about my attachment style. You know, our attachment style, if you're not familiar, is basically the way that we learn as humans to engage with the world. And apparently, according to scientists, I just got cut off, so forgive me. I was talking about how through science we've discovered that our attachment style is formed between the ages of 0 and 6 or 7. So basically whatever happened to you during that time is going to kind of dictate, at least theoretically, how you express yourself in relationships, how you engage, what your love languages are, and, you know, whether you feel safe in a relationship or whether you feel like you want to sabotage it. So through doing this test of attachment style, I learned that I have a avoidant, anxious attachment style, and that's because I was abandoned multiple times as a infant, and also because I experienced severe physical, emotional trauma during that time as well, on multiple occasions. And so it fragmented the shit out of my sense of self, my sense of safety, my sense of connection, my ability to trust others and feel super emotional, to feel held and grounded with other humans. And I didn't expect to cry during this, but it makes sense. The attachment style is a very intimate test. Just be warned. If you do take it and you've experienced a lot of trauma like me, you might experience some tears and some difficulty emotionally. So just be aware of that. But essentially, it doesn't have to dictate your life forever, especially if you're doing the healing. But it is helpful. It's a helpful tool to understand yourself, to understand your partner, to help your partner understand you. Because if your partner has a secure attachment style and you have an avoidant, anxious attachment style, you guys are ultimately kind of speaking different languages. And it's really important. It's a nice place to connect and to ground and to understand a little bit deeper why you are the way you are. And so I was just too busy trying to figure out how to be in a relationship with one person, let alone multiple people, or let alone having an open relationship in some way, even if it is just monogamish, which Dan Savage is a sex columnist, and I would just call him like a sexpert out of San Francisco, who coined this term, which is essentially just, it means that maybe you and your partner decide that kissing other people is okay, but nothing else, you know, and that's what monogamish means, is that you and your partner decide what level of non-monogamous you're willing and feeling safe to go. And basing all that off of your attachment style and your own personal comfort is absolutely what makes sense. And this is kind of what the revelations that are coming in now are about this newer, healed version of me. All the work that I've done, I'm starting to uncover this deeper part of me underneath the attachment style of being avoidant and anxious, is this version of me that doesn't feel like I can be held within one relationship for the rest of my life. And also questioning whether as a culture, as humanity, is that really what we want and need anymore? Is that what works for us? You know, even if it worked for our parents or their parents, and let's be honest, it hasn't really been working. You know, a lot of marriages end in divorce, and we're realizing a lot more about what works. And so having these parameters, opening up these conversations, these dialogues with our partners can really help us to fine-tune a reality that actually works for us and might foster a sense of safety and well-being in relationships. And especially if you've dealt with a lot of trauma, that might not be something you've ever experienced. And I am sharing all this because I believe a lot of us are going to be starting to kind of be guided into more of this non-monogamous. And mind you, I'm not talking about polyamory, which means having many lovers. Non-monogamous just means, it means whatever you and your partner decide it means, assuming you have a partner when you decide to be non-monogamous. And it could be a conversation that you have with your partner where you decide that if you meet somebody else who interests you, 5 years into the relationship, or you guys are struggling and it's between breaking up and opening your relationship up, that's the conversation you have at that point. And that's the kind of non-monogamous person I believe I'm going to be, or that I already am, is the kind that just knows that ultimately I'm not sure that one relationship with one gender and one, forever relationship is going to be enough to encompass all the many facets of me and all my transformative potential. And that eventually we might want us to have a conversation where we open up the relationship and with boundaries and with respect and with, common ground. So I know this is a little bit all over the place, especially since we got cut off. But this is an important conversation, especially for me to come out as pansexual, which I'm realizing, like I said, a lot of this I've known for a long time. The first time I was attracted to a woman, I was 13, and I have very vivid memories of her and what about her attracted me. And it's the same kind of energy that attracts me in a woman now. And I wouldn't go so far as to say that I'm bisexual, because I feel like that implies that I sexualize women at large. And that's not what this is. It's more of just a certain essence or energy that a person carries that I am attracted to. And when a person like that shows up in my life, they might be in a woman's body or a cis woman's body, but it doesn't mean that I'm not attracted to them, And that's what pansexual means. And I believe it's kind of the wave of the future, where all genders are getting blended, and there's a lot of ambiguity where it concerns sexuality and gender, and I believe that's part of this new earth. In a similar way that people have said things like, one day we're all going to be a shade of brown, and we're not going to have these same issues about race, which might be an ignorant thing to say, but I don't believe it is. I believe that we are kind of blending, and we're creating a more solid foundation of humanity, of love, that has nothing to do with form or figure, is what I'm hearing. In other words, gender, race, sexual preference, in your physical embodiment of being human. I mean, after all, at least if you follow my content, you're probably well aware that we are souls. We're not bodies. A lot of us have lived as other genders, as other races, we've lived as a lot of different beings in physical form because we've incarnated many times. Not all of us believe this, but I certainly do, and I remember past lives of mine. I've always identified a little bit more as a masculine energy because I was raised in a masculine energy, and I've been in a survival mode for the first 37 years of my life, and maybe even up until recently, actually. So that's a masculine energy. At this point, I'm trying to learn how to balance that. I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job, actually, so I can own that more. I've been balancing that feminine energy, that receiving energy, that softer energy, and that comes with a sense of trust, a sense of feeling safe, a sense of, feeling worthy, because a lot of the issues I had before were surrounding worthiness and my lack of feeling worthy because of the way I was abandoned and abused as a child. So I hope that this made sense and that it reached people that needed to learn about some of these terminologies, that didn't already know them, or that just wanted to know that you're not alone, or that if you're feeling confused about your own gender identity or sexual orientation, that it's really part of this new evolution that we're experiencing, and that our souls are waking up to deeper truths about ourselves as a human embodiment. So if you're feeling confused about why all of a sudden you started to resonate more as a non-binary person, or you're starting to feel more and more like you're supposed to be another gender, that's because your soul is waking up to things that maybe you weren't able to access when you were in a deeper survival mode. And also, it has a lot more to do with God energy, spirit energy, and this period of time, which is pressing on us, and it's all in divine timing. Everything's unfolding as we agreed before we got here. And again, those of you that know that your souls will understand that. And those of you that don't, just know that I love you. Either way, I'm in Ashland, Oregon. I'm being called to shout this out. I grew up here. I was guided to move back here about a year ago to do some teaching and some work, and I've been working so hard on myself and doing the healing from all the trauma that I experienced when I was growing up here. I'm finally feeling ready to jump out into the world, and I'm being social, I'm making friends, but also teaching and guiding locally. So if you're local and you feel called to my energy, feel free to reach out. I'm also looking for housing and community and basically my soul family, because God guided me back here for a reason. So if you feel like you're my soul family and we have some collaboration to do, or you feel like you want me to live on your property, or that we're supposed to cohabitate or make music together, or teach or lead together, please reach out. And also, if you'd like to be kept in the loop of upcoming events, I have some that are not quite on the books yet, but close. So it's really exciting coming up. If you're interested in being in the loop on that, please feel free to reach out to me, sacredmuseproject.com, and we can put you on a mailing list. All right, again, my website is sacredmuseproject.com, and I hope you have a fucking amazing day. I love you. I'll see you next time.